WD, executive producer of We Supply America, out championing the noble calling of distribution. Hey, thank you so much for being here. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. You made it. We made it. We're here. And today is the 5th live this week where we are exploring the topic of the need for human resources throughout distribution to move from transactional to become more strategic. And today we have a good one for you. We're going to spend the next 20 to 30 minutes talking about some ideas for you in terms of this very important topic of attracting top talent and how independent distributors can, in fact, win the war on talent. In fact, let me set the stage for you. By the way, welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in. Let me know that you're here in the comments. Please say hello where you're coming from. But let me set the stage for today. The question is, can we win the war on talent? You know, on March 1st, we've got a new Future of Distribution report coming out. And in that, we're going to be able to report to you that 82% of leaders throughout distribution believe that this topic of attracting talent that we're going to need for growth is going to be the challenge we face for the next decade. So here we are today. We're going to ask the question and answer the question: can we, independent, family-owned, employee-owned distribution business, can we win the war on talent? You might be surprised by my answer, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to get started in 2 minutes. Thanks for being here. Come on in. Let me know that you're here. Consume more Diet Coke in those 2 minutes than any other 2 minutes throughout the course of the day. I don't know what it is, but that's what I do. Hey, you guys, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thanks again for joining me. We got a good one today for the next 20, 30 minutes. Let me say hello to those of you coming in. Terry, good morning. Great to see you. Really appreciate you being here. Looking forward to seeing you down in Nashville. Hello, Michael Marcy. Rub it in. It's tropical in Shrewsbury, not here in Chicago. Jim Banovich, as always, good morning to you. I appreciate you being here. Daniel, yep, it's not tropical here, is it? Good to see you. And Chuck Day, thank you for coming in from Manning Brothers in Athens, Georgia. As I saw you pop up, can I tell you what I was thinking? Chuck, invite the We Supply America to come see Manning Brothers this summer in Athens. I'd be honored. Athens is on my bucket list. I've never been to Athens, but in my mind, bucket list, I want to come to Athens. I want to go to some of your local establishments, drink some good beer, listen to some good live music. And man, if the Black Crowes could show up, if you could make that happen, Man, you'd make my day. All right. So you guys, thanks for coming in. Everybody else coming in, keep coming in. Thank you so much. Rachel, good to see you. Bethany, great to see you. But we got a lot to talk about today. And today's topic, you guys, is attracting top talent, how independent distributors can win the war on talent. So again, let me set the stage. Let me ask you this question. I want you to answer the question in your mind when I ask you this. Can we independent, family-owned, employee-owned distribution businesses win the war on talent? This research, future distribution research we have coming out on March 1st, tells us that 82% of us believe that this is the challenge for the next decade. Being able to attract the talent that we need for the growth we see in front of us is going to be the challenge for the next decade. So we have to ask ourselves, can we win this war on talent? And the data says it's not an easy task in front of us. I mean, Gallup tells us that 41% of workers feel that only 41% feel that they understand what exactly their employer stands for or how their employer's brand is different or unique from the competition. Gartner tells us that only 31% of HR leaders think that their employees are satisfied with their company's employee value proposition. Let me say that again. Gartner, only 31% of human resource leaders think that their employees are satisfied with their company's employee value proposition. Glassdoor tells us, think about this, about winning the war on talent. Glassdoor tells us that candidates that you want to attract are going to interact with 12 to 18 touch points, like your career site and social media profile, before they apply or accept your job. Our research from last year, Future Distribution, says that 93% of executives believe that the human element is going to play a larger, more significant role in leadership going forward, and thus your ability to attract and retain talent. And then McKinsey tells us that 70% of employees say that their sense of purpose is defined by their work. So can we win the war on talent in this environment? What's your answer? Can I tell you my answer? Can we win the war on talent? To me, the answer is absolutely, unequivocally, yes. Yes, you can. And let me tell you this premise that I have coming off of the second season of the We Supply America tour. You know, over the last 2 summers, you know that I've spent over 31,000 miles crossing this country, stopping at 59 different distributors, meeting your employees, hugging them in the morning. You know that story. And I have to tell you something. Something happened in the middle of last year's tour. You know, at the end of the first season of We Supply America, I had this premise that when I walked into your businesses, I didn't see the products on the shelves. What I came to the conclusion was that your businesses were platforms for the personal and the professional growth of your employees. I still believe that, but I think it was limiting. At the end of this season's tour, I had the unconditional belief that your businesses contribute to the greater good, and the development of your people is just part of that. So put all that together and everything else going through my mind of what I see in your businesses, and here's what I believe down to my core. And check yourself. See if you feel this as I feel this. I truly believe that your businesses are absolutely perfectly positioned to win the war on talent. I do. You come with me this summer, spend 31,000 miles in the We Supply America RV, stopping at a different distributor every day, meeting your employees, listening to their stories about why they're with you for 10 years, 22 years, what it means to them to be there with the other employees of your company. And I got to tell you something. I believe down to my core that you are perfectly positioned to win this war on talent. Do you agree? But here's the challenge. With that belief, there is a but. There is a but. There's three things we need to address. There's three things that we need to address. Again, the premise. I believe you are perfectly positioned to win the war on talent. But number one, you don't believe it. You don't believe it. We've bought into this narrative that we can't compete with the Googles or the Facebooks or the Metas or the Amazon or the large regional sexy companies around us. Number one, we don't believe it. We've bought into the narrative that we can't compete against their benefits program. We've bought into the narrative that there's kind of a ceiling in our organization because it's family held and you know there's not enough executive positions. We've bought into this narrative that we can't do it. I disagree. I fundamentally disagree. So you're perfectly positioned to win the war on talent, but number one, we don't believe it. We're going to talk about that. Number two, but is we haven't thought deeply, strategically, and holistically about this issue enough, I don't believe. I believe we have been, because of the tyranny of the urgent, because of everything else we need to do in human resources and in leading the company, this has kind of been pushed off to the side, and we react rather than proactive, rather than strategically. We react, and we act tactically. Oh my gosh, we need new drivers. Last time we had a $10,000 bonus out there. Let's bump that up to $15,000 signing bonus. Right? It's a tactical, reactive reaction to the market rather than taking the time, getting away from the business, and thinking deeply, strategically, and holistically about this issue. And then number three, so A, we're perfectly positioned, but one, we don't believe it. Two, we haven't thought about it strategically enough. I don't believe it. And then number three, historically, we're humble. Historically, we're not very good marketers. And so we have a hard time articulating our story, our employee value proposition, both internally and externally. So there's my premise for you. Let me know in the comments. Do you agree, disagree with this thought? Is it furthering your thinking? So we asked the question today, can we win the war on talent? My answer is unequivocally yes, we can. In fact, I believe you are perfectly positioned. What I saw in your businesses over the last 2 summers, my goodness, you're darn right we can win this war on talent. But we have to believe it ourselves. Number two, we have to think deeper, more strategically, more holistically. And number three, we have to become better marketers of ourselves, our businesses, and our opportunities. All right, so let's talk about this. If we can agree, at least let's embrace Dirk's premise that we're perfectly positioned, but then we got to overcome those 3 items. All right, so number one, we don't believe it. I really believe that the first thing to win the war on talent, we have to check ourselves. We have to check our mindsets. And we have to ask ourselves, do we believe that our business is, let's use the word, sexy enough to attract the talent that we need? Again, you know where I stand on that. Here, for example, is an article that I wrote for Modern Distribution Management, MDM, last year. And it says, you want to bridge the talent gap? You want to win the war on talent? Well, fight this false narrative that you don't have a sexy business. Because I see that you do, in fact, I mean, you have a worthy business for A talent, for data scientists, for brilliant marketers, for brilliant salespeople, for brilliant administrative people, for brilliant warehouse associates, and the like. This was brought home to me season 1 of We Supply America tour. I was out east. I went to the Granite Group, and I had a chance to meet at the Granite Group Chris, who was the COO at the time, and Amir, who was the CFO at the time. Chris now, I believe, is the president. Amir now is the COO. But when I heard that I was going to have a chance to meet with Amir, I got excited. You know why? Not because he was the CFO, because numbers and me don't go together. I was excited because I learned that Amir had previously been the president for Bauer Hockey. And guys, I'm a hockey fan. We're a hockey family. I played hockey through my adult years. My son's still playing hockey today. We're Blackhawk fans. Sorry. We're Blackhawk fans. And man, when I heard that Amir was the president of Bauer Hockey, I became a fanboy. I mean, I forgot about We Supply America. I really did. And I got to Amir and I asked him, man, tell me about what it's like, you know, being the president of Bauer Hockey. And here's the story he told me. He said, Dirk, yeah, you know what? It's pretty cool. It's pretty sexy. You know, the NHL we interacted with. We had star players under contract, you know, people that, you know, buy their jerseys and get autographs. And you know what? It was kind of cool, pretty sexy. And now I'm selling toilets. And now I'm selling pipes. And now I'm selling plumbing products. But he says, let me tell you this. He said, something that I've realized is that sexy business of hockey, the pros and the NHL, it really only touches about 1 million people in North America. He says, when you stop and think what we do at the Granite Group, plumbing, we touch 330 million people. He says, you know, that sexy hockey stuff, you know, we go and play hockey and then we come home and we take our smelly hockey bag and we throw it off in the corner to be forgotten about. We throw it off in the corner of the garage to be forgotten about until we got to get dressed up again. He says, when you think about it, stuff we move here at the Granite Group, it's used every day by 330 million people. He says, when you think about that, that's pretty sexy. So last week I was down in Naples, Florida with American Supply Association. And so I did some Googling. And you know what? There's 330 million people in this country. There's 142 million housing units. There's 6 million commercial buildings. And guess what? Every one of those buildings and every one of those 330 million people use the products that you sell. And that's just plumbing. That's not building materials. That's not HVAC. That's not industrial MRO. It's not everything else that distribution does. And you know what? It's pretty sexy. So can we win the war on talent? The answer is absolutely yes. But we have to believe. We have to believe beyond a shadow of a doubt, like Amir, that what we do is pretty darn sexy. It's pretty good, and it's worthy of attracting the best talent in the area. Would you agree with me? Wow. I also talked about this with Nick Porter, who's the CEO of Porter Pipe here in the Chicago area, Addison. And I sat down up in their culture room and we talked about this. It was the end of the day. The video crew was with us. It was a great conversation because we both had a beer in front of us. And we talked about this sexiness of the business. And would you do me a favor? Think about, listen to this short conversation I had with Nick Porter and keep in mind this question. Can we win the war on talent? And keep in mind my premise that yes, you can, and you're perfectly positioned to win the war on talent. Here you go. You know, we just had this press conference beforehand, and you know, one of the things that I said is sub goal I have of We Supply America is that I want to obliterate the term, you know, distribution isn't a sexy business, because I believe it can be. But as I'm listening to you, what actually just went through my mind right now is, you know, why do you laugh at jokes? You laugh at jokes because there's an element of truth to that joke.
Yeah.
Is it right? And so I wonder if I need to think that a little bit deeper and say, you know what? If we've come to believe that distribution isn't sexy, it might be because there's an element of truth to that, i.e. warehouses that aren't lit, that aren't clean, right?
Yeah.
Places that don't provide opportunity. So I think, you know, that's one of the lessons that I'm taking from you, right?
Yeah.
Is it falls on us, each one of us, as individuals and individual leaders, right? To ensure, right, that this noble calling of distribution is in fact a reality, I guess.
I think to any leaders out there who are thinking like, oh man, my business is not sexy.
Right.
It's up to you to position it.
Yeah.
to be an attractive place to attract the next generation of talent.
You bet.
Right? Like you take a look around this place. If you pan the cameras around here, think of this place at night, dimly lit, bar filled up, coolest space in the world. Like it doesn't get much more sexy.
Right. No doubt
Right,
about it.
this space could be in a technology company in California,
Without question.
but it's in a industrial commercial distribution business in the northwest suburbs of Chicago.
Yeah.
Right, so it's absolutely a super cool business, and you can make your offices a recruiting tool. You can make them cool looking, technology forward. You can make a business whatever you decide it's going to be, and it can be super cool and sexy.
It can be super cool and sexy, but it requires that intentionality that you talked about earlier.
Yeah.
So yes, can we win the war on talent? The answer is absolutely yes, but we have to believe it. We need to have that intentionality that Nick talked about. And Chuck, I love the question you just brought up. I don't know if you guys can see this. It turned blue for some reason today. But Chuck says, on the talent market, how do you determine a compensation package? Call your buddies, look at graphs, dartboard. And I think that's a great question tied to exactly what we're talking about here, Chuck. And I think if we call our buddies, if I think we, throw darts at the dartboard, if you will, in a sense, that's step 4, 5, and 6. That's where we get to the tactical decisions. I think even before those you ask, we have to think more strategically. As I suggested, we don't. So when I saw your question, Chuck, I think about what I learned from Andrew Berlin, the former CEO of Berlin Packaging. I won't tell you their story, but man, they became a juggernaut from $69 million in sales, and from an $11 million valuation 20 years later to over $2 billion distributor of rigid packaging. How did he do it? Well, in part, his compensation package was part of that. But they didn't throw dartboards. It started with strategic thinking and their philosophy of their people. And their philosophy of people was, we are going to attract a talent selling commodity, unsexy product. So how do you do that? Their philosophy was that while most companies are going to work to offer salaries at the average of the market, right? From day one, his philosophy, his strategy was to build a business to attract a talent. And part of that was to ensure that they paid above market average in terms of their pay. So again, we got to step back and think strategically, what type of talent do we want? What do we believe in? Are they a cost? Are they investment? Are they assets? Are they resource? Or are they human beings with soul and dreams, and we want to help fulfill their potential? Man, we could go off on a lot of tangents there, but a great question. I appreciate that. So if this is making sense to you, right? Yes, you can win the war on talent, but we have to believe it ourselves. We have to know we have something worthy. Last year I talked a lot about obliterating this false narrative that distribution isn't sexy. And we created this distribution sexy scale. And go ahead, take a screenshot of this. Put in the comments if you want a copy of it. We'll send it to you. But what we did is we identified 8 pillars that we could consciously think about in our organizations in terms of the sexiness of our business, in terms of its attractiveness to today's and tomorrow's talent. And what you'll see, we don't have time to go through this. Again, I can send it to you, is up on the top, there are 4 different categories. Is part of your employee value, is what you're offering your people in terms of the importance of their work, the vision of your organization, the purpose of the work, the culture, the people, the innovation, the technology. Is what you have to offer unattractive? Is it just ordinary? Is it inviting? Is it sexy? And here is a great tool for you to start the conversation and the belief that, we have something here. We really do have something that's inviting and sexy for people. Because I got to tell you something, that's what I saw out on the We Supply America tour. But we have to believe it. We have to stop, pause, and think about it strategically. Okay? Does that make sense? All right, so number 1, can you win the war on talent? Yes, but we have to believe it. Number 2, We have to think deeper, more strategically about it. We have to stop simply reacting, all right? And so as I've worked with leaders and human resources individuals over the last couple of years, what we've identified is these 4 phases that you can think about bringing to your organization to think deeply and strategically about your winning the war on talent strategy. Let me just go through them very quick because we're coming up on the hour, half an hour. All right. So number 1, I think if we want to win the war on talent, it begins with your organizational purpose. As a leadership team, it's important. I'll even say it's imperative that you really think deeply about your organizational purpose, what you stand for. What is your organizational why? What is your purpose? What's your mission? What's your vision? And by the way, does that align with the needs, wants, and desires of today's and tomorrow's talent pool? It's an important question. Is what we as an organization stand for, does it align with the needs, wants, and desires of today's talent pool? And here's the thing. Over 85% of the leaders in distribution realize that the needs, wants, and desires of our employees and the talent pool have significantly changed over the last several years. So winning the war on talent, we want to start here and say, does our organizational purpose align with the needs, wants, and beliefs of our people? And we have to think deeply about that. Now, once we understand our purpose and we ensure that it does align with the needs, right? Then we got to think about, what do we offer? What do we offer our employees? What is our employee value proposition? And I heard this through the We Supply America tour. You know, historically, we as distributors, we've been customer centric, and we've worked hard to understand the needs of the customers and develop solutions for our customers' needs. Today, 89% of distribution leaders, we'll report this on March 1st, 89% of distribution leaders believe that today it's equally, if not more important, that we think about the value proposition we offer our employees to the same degree or more than we think about the value proposition to our customers. So we really need to think deeply about what are the component parts of our employee value proposition. And what we know is that it has to evolve to meet the needs of today and tomorrow's workforce. Yesterday, go back to what we talked about yesterday. We talked about this employee value proposition in depth. But what I'm suggesting is it can't be just the reactive tactical responses. Oh my gosh, we need another driver. Last time we offered $10,000 signing bonus, let's 15. We have to think about that employee value proposition into a much deeper and more holistic way. Again, we talked about that yesterday. All right. Number 3, then, I said earlier that, you know what, we're humble. We're not traditionally very good marketers. And certainly we haven't really thought deeply about how do we communicate our employee value proposition, both internally and externally. To win the war on talent, we've got to become great marketers. We've got to become great marketers of who we are as an organization, what we stand for, what our purpose is, how that aligns with today's world. And then we have to be great marketers of, man, we've got a package, we've got an employee value proposition, we've got an employee experience through the entire lifestyle, through the entire journey of your employment. We've got an amazing story of how we help you grow, how we help you fulfill your potential, how we help you have belonging and dignity, so on and so forth. But we have to learn how to communicate that both internally and externally. And then it comes down to the team putting together and say, where do we need to invest? How do we tell this story? What is the package that we're going to offer? And what is that purpose? And we have to start acting on those plans. So, can you win the war on talent? Absolutely, you can. Let me share with you one more 50-second clip. When I was in Pennsylvania, I met the great family-owned business of Hubbis Truck and Auto Parts. And I have a chance to ask Kurt and Cliff, the principals of the business, Hubbis, about this noble calling, and listen to this conversation and how it relates to this job creation that you do and attractive talent. Here you go. Let's start with the noble calling of distribution, right? Because when you hear that term, what does that mean to you, the noble calling of distribution?
Yeah. The noble calling of distribution is private entrepreneurs in search for their own betterment and their own pursuit of freedom, supplying families with jobs and people with jobs and keeping communities strong. Amazon is not going to, for instance, Amazon's not going to donate the local football team, the local wrestling team. They're big business. They have no care. The noble cause is to do a great job servicing the marketplace and provide for economic opportunity for everybody in that chain.
Darn right.
You know, and that is what it is. I mean, your people have to have good jobs. They have to have a community, and you have to be able to supply their needs. That is what it's about to me. It's about America.
That's what it's about. It's about America. What he's saying is we believe that what we have is worthy of attracting that talent. And by the way, they do. So this whole issue of can we win the war on talent has been on the minds of a lot of CEOs. In fact, one CEO recently said to me, Dirk, that this topic has been on our executive team's mind a long time. And then he went on to tell me that not only has it been on our executive teams a long time, we can't really get any traction around it. Other things seem to take priorities, even though we know that this is a priority. He says it's been on our mind a long time, and we can't seem to get traction. And that's one of the reasons why, guys, I'm so excited that last week we introduced and we brought to the world the first Human Resources Summit for Professionals in Distribution. We're going to be bringing together 50. This is going to be an intimate gathering of 50 leaders throughout distribution, 50 C-suite and human resources leaders throughout distribution to look at the need to become more strategic in our human resources. Winning the war on talent is part of that. You can get all the details at www.events.unleashwd.com/Human Resources Summit. And you guys, I have to tell you, I am absolutely on fire. I am so excited about what we are going to do together down in Nashville with this Human Resources Summit on April 27th and 28th. We have developed we've curating amazing group of speakers from within distribution and, by the way, outside. And let me just tell you the story. And if you go to our website, you can find out all of the details of the summit. And what I'm going through right here are the 7 sessions. And you can look at the 7 sessions that we have scheduled that I have curated. And it truly is going to be a phenomenal 2 days. Let me just tell you the story of what's going to happen. We're going to start early on the morning of Thursday, April 27th. And you're going to get 2 hours with me to set the stage and to blow up the false narratives that we have. And we're going to spend 2 hours just absolutely reframing human resources in distribution. And on Monday, I shared with you how the current narrative, the current Bible, really is driving the limiting narrative of what human resources is and what we should be moving towards. And so we're going to start there. You're going to start interacting with the other 50 participants, and we're going to get right to it to say, you know what? We have to get more strategic. Here's the false narratives that we got to move beyond, and here is the thinking we need for human resources going forward. It's going to be research-based, and it's going to be super cool, exciting, energizing, and meaningful, all right? From there, then, I've got the founder of blinds.com coming in, and man, he developed a culture around talent. And he defined success as being in a continual state of improvement. And he built his culture, he built his talent strategy around that to a point where he eventually, took this company that he started in his garage and eventually sold it to Home Depot. It's an amazing story, the culture, and we're going to talk about that. Next, we're going to have a panel of CEOs throughout distribution who are going to talk about how they had the epiphany of developing a people-first culture and what that meant to their human resources strategies and what it meant to the long-term growth, sustainability, profitability of the business. It's going to be fantastic. And then we're going to have to end the day an in-depth conversation about reimagining our employee value proposition. We're going to come back the next day and we're going to talk specifically about this winning the war on talent. We're going to go deeper. You're going to have the worksheets, the tools, and you're going to bring back strategies to do that. And then we'll end the second day morning session with a panel of human resources professionals from distribution saying, how have we taken all of this information and implemented it in our organization? Here are the results of doing it. And by the way, here are the steps and the tools and the tactics and the strategies you can take to your organization. And then we'll end this 2 days after lunch with me leading you through a 7-step process where you're going to go home with specific plans and sequence of moves and communication strategies, because everybody that needed to be there won't be there with you. And so we're going to give you an actual 7-step strategy that you're going to work through before you go home. So you're going to go home with a strategy and a communication strategy to truly begin making transformative changes to move the human resources function to become that more strategic partner to the C-suite that we know human resources needs to be. So guys, that's what we have for today. Can we win the war on talent? The answer is absolutely yes. I believe down to my core that you are perfectly positioned to win the war on talent. But number one, it starts with our mindset. We have to believe it down to our core. Number two, we have to get away from the business to think more strategically, deeper, and holistically about it than ever before. Number three, we got to become better marketers. And if this is of interest to you, I would love to see you down in Nashville on April 27th and 28th. You guys, thanks for being here. I hope you have an amazing weekend with your family, and I will see you back at 9 o'clock Central on Monday morning. Thanks for being with me, everybody. Hope today was a great value. Talk to you.